This is Pat Soundbites Unplugged. Unplugged. The podcast where all the artists go to tell it as it is. Careers, music, tours, and more. And here's your host, the man that refuses to eat squid, Pat Calamari.
Hey, Pat Calamari here, host of Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast. Thanks for listening, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for joining me on this killer journey. Episode number 114. Well, talk about a worldwide podcast. Now, here's a country I have never chatted with anybody in my lifetime. And yes, this country loves music just like we do here in the States and all over the world. My special guest today, well, he's considered Israel's ambassador of the blues. And he is guitar slinger Mr. Andy Watts. And Andy put out an album last year, it's called, late last year I should say, called Supergroove, which features Joe Louis Walker. And Joe is an incredible guitar player and blues musician in his own right. And Joe does the vocals and then back and forth with Andy. And we have a great chat, learned a lot talking with Andy Watts. We talked about the music scene in Israel. We talked about the culture just in Israel. And, you know, a lot of bands always say, well, we're playing in Europe, but I've never really heard a lot of national acts that say, hey, we got shows in Israel and Tel Aviv. So learned a lot from Mr. Andy Watts. He's got a great sense of humor. His album, Supergroove, is electrifying rock and blues tracks. He's an incredible guitar player. He's got a soulful voice. And everywhere that I have read, it certainly singles out that Andy is without a doubt the top blues artist in his home country of Israel. And certainly he's looking to expand his presence worldwide. Check it out, Andy Watts, blues artist Andy Watts, coming from just outside of Tel Aviv, right here on Pat Soundbites Unplugged. As always, live, love, and laugh a lot, because life is way too short. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. This is Andy Watts, blues guitarist from Israel, and you are listening to Pat Soundbites Unplugged. Oh, yeah.
WBXO Classic Rock Redefined in conjunction with Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast. Really cool honor today to have singer, songwriter, and premier blues guitarist who's earned the reputation as Israel's ambassador of the blues rocker, Mr. Andy Watts. What's going on, Andy?
Oh, great. Thanks, Pat, for having me, and it's an honor to be on your program. I'm doing great. How are you today?
I am doing terrific, and it's a pleasure to have you on the phone calling in from Israel, and that is really cool. I had never had that happen before, so there's always a first for everything, and you got a great album out that came out, I want to say September in the fall, Supergroove, really highly charged, electrifying rock and blues tracks with one of my coolest friends who lives not far from me, Mr. Joe Louis Walker. Man, how cool is that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, me and Joe go way back. As a way, you mentioned me as ambassador of the blues. Well, that's actually something that the Blues and Rock Muse magazine from California minted. As a matter of fact, for the past 10 to 12 years, I've been very busy bringing the best of the blues in the world. That means from America over to Israel to perform with me in my band and to record with me. The purpose of that would be that I want to enlarge the audience in Israel. I want to expose to them to the real deal blues from America. Obviously, that would be self-fulfilling. If I would widen the audience in Israel, I would also have more people coming to my shows and listen to the music that I'm doing and recording. And I have brought Joe 3 times to Israel over the years. He also sang the title track on my previous album from 2018, Blues on Fire. And I also brought Lucky Peterson twice, rest in peace. Johnny Winter, rest in peace. Bernard Allison, Rick Estrin, who is playing on the album under his alias name, Coasting Hank. We recorded 2 tracks with him. That was really funny. And of course, Kenny Neal, who is also co-producing the album, among others.
But you mentioned, expanding the blues into Israel. Obviously, I've never been to that beautiful country. Tell me, Andy, what's the music culture like? What is the preferred type of music that the folks listen to over there?
Well, I have to make a very clear statement that blues is not the mainstream music in Israel for obvious reasons. However, it's growing. Blues and jazz scene is alive. My performances are centered around Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, the biggest cities, where you have the bigger venues or festivals. Music scene as such is, of course, Israel is at the crossroads. It's a melting pot, culture-wise, food-wise, music-wise. And that's reflecting itself in the music too. Yes, you have a lot of Middle Eastern rhythms and a lot of things for jazz or fusing or rock. I have not incorporated that kind of vibe in my music, but because I don't need it, because I found my music direction I'm following, and I have a large following in Israel, and it's working out. But it's a very lively music scene and a melting pot, I would say.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great that you're able to really bring it out there, and you got a great fan base. How did you get involved? What was the first time your love of music was your family's mom, dad, somebody a musician, or the first time you picked up the guitar? Who were your influences?
Well, I grew up in a house full of culture music, and I'm thankful for that. And my father used to, bless his memory, he used to, for my weekly allowance, put 5 vinyls, and I had to say he was using classic music at that time. That maybe go in a different direction to rock. It took me a long time before I could listen to classic music again, for obvious reasons. But if I could say 4 classic pieces, a composer and the piece that was played, I would get my weekly allowance. And if I could say all 5, I get a bonus. So yes, maybe it was schooling my musical memory from an early stage. And I was more into tuning into American radio stations. I listened to blues, listened to Albert King, Albert Collins, Hendrix, Peter Green. I'm a big fan of Peter Green, very influential for my playing. And that made me pick up a 6-string. A friend of mine showed me a few basic chords, and I never took lessons. I don't read music. I'm not proud of that. So I probably break all the rules there are in music, but it works for me. So I'm completely self-taught, So I don't feel I have any limits when I play. I follow my instinct and what my musical ear tells me is right to do. So if you listen to the album, you cannot really put me in a box, because it's blues, it's blues rock, it's psychedelic, it's a bit funk, a bit soul, a bit jazzy. It's all that, and I think that's healthy for the blues to rejuvenate itself to move forward.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. I agree. I like the diversity in an album, and the tracks that stick out, that seem to be my favorites, Andy. I love Straight Shootin' Woman. I love Burning Deep with Joe. I love Blues in a Month Club with Eliza. I love Living Hand to Mouth. Those are the ones that really made a kind of an impact, got my attention. I love the harp on Living Hand to Mouth. Wow, that is that's awesome.
That one was, we did live. Rick Heston was over for 3 shows, and that was a blast live. I said, listen, Rick, I'm going to take you to a studio in Israel. It's not maybe the high-tech palace that you use. Oh, man, I'm old school, Rick said. Oh, that's good, because that's where we're going. Because the studio where I'm playing and recording in Israel, in Lexa Tel Aviv, that is in the kibbutz. Kibbutz is outposts that were formed, that were before Israel was formed in 1948. Sort of not the Wild West, the Wild East, you can say. Outposts around agricultural settlements, and this kibbutz has an old chicken shack that they converted into a studio, and it's analog, and it suits me because it's old school. I'm looking for that big warm sound. I can be with the musicians in the studio, and I like it. And I took Rick with me to record Living Hand to Mouth in the studio, and he is just blasting his harp on that song. And the funny detail is he told me, listen, Andy, don't write Rick, write Coasting Hank. That's the one I'm starting out in the 50s in California. Everybody know it's me. Nobody knows Coasting Hank is Rick, Coasting Hank. So he also do some harp on "Don't Take My Blues Away."
Right.
And it was a blast to have him in the studio. He's such a lot of fun and such a fantastic musician, Mr. Rick Esther.
Yeah. Before I tag into the album, Andy, I wanted to just ask you one more thing. Do you get a lot of national acts that tour in Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I bring on a lot of. I had a lot of shows. Obviously, the canceled. Joe was supposed to come over again in May. We had to change that for obvious reason. 2020. I had some other a great guy from Mississippi was to come over. I have some guys that I have, lined up for coming. But regardless of that, there's a lot of other shows coming to Israel, obviously, and performing. You've seen Buddy Guy been here, Joe Bonamassa, many others.
Oh, great. That's what I was at. They always post, hey, we're going to Europe. And, you think, well, the UK, you think Germany, France, Italy, maybe Spain, Sweden. But nobody's ever really said, hey, I'm going to Tel Aviv. But it's great to know from an insider that, Joe Bonamessa and guys have played there. So that's.
Yeah, well, you had a moment, you should know. Also, I had artists for I try to avoid political involved music. Politics is a different thing. Music is something that makes people to come together. Politics, I think, is dividing people. Music brings you together. That's the way I look at it.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, a lot of these decisions for artists to come to Israel is politically loaded. So Israel used to have before, acts. We have acts, but many of them maybe they say, a lot of elderly artists coming to Israel, before they don't book them in Europe. But that's not really true. That was maybe before. But without a doubt, maybe many high-profile artists that wanted to come and perform in Israel were pressured on social media and all over to cancel their acts in Israel. And that's unfortunate because I think it's better if there is some issues to be solved. I don't think it should be involving culture or punishing on the music act. But that has slowed down lately. It was more, maybe 5-10 years ago, it was more of that.
Yeah, I see more and more people. Israel, before obviously this whole COVID thing last year, Israel, they're always advertising, come to Israel, and I see more and more flights to more and more friends of mine have traveled over there. So it's kind of the political, the whole violence in the Middle East. I think that's finally calmed down a bit, and more and more, like I said, more and more.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was the tourism has been growing tremendously to Israel. We see the potential to come in here to maybe, particularly these days, probably the only real stable country that you have in Middle East with a more of a Western-oriented society, economy, and something that you can relate to if you're coming here as an American or as a European, without a doubt. And that's been seen. Obviously, like anywhere else in the world, the COVID-19 corona has changed the plans for for many people in the world at the moment.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time and just explaining that end of the country out there. Now, getting back to the recording of your cool album here, Supergroove, you talked about the one studio. What was the recording process with Joe and Eliza and working with Kenny Neal? Did you have to send WAV files back and forth, or was Joe and everybody able at the time to come and do it together?
I work pretty simple also because I don't write music really. So what I do when I do write the songs on this album, 5 of these songs I have written, and 5 songs are covers. But when I do covers, I am not a big fan of copy paste. I want to put my own stamp on it. I want to stay true to and under the original artist. However, I want this song that it suits my musical concept, it suits the setup and the line of musician I'm using, and I want it to flow with the album, that it has something to contribute and not sucking energy out of the album, it's contributing energy to the album. And the process for me to recording is that I'm working with the music first. I'm working with it's blues. You need a good riff. You need something happy, something that really makes you feel this is the right thing. And once you have the music sorted out, then you need lyrics. And I write lyrics gray. So I don't write black and white story. I write it gray. And a good example of that would probably be Burning Deep, which I must admit that I wrote it having Joe Walker in mind. And I think he did a tremendous work with the vocals and that, so outstanding. And one of the lines that Joe really liked the lyrics, something happens to us in our professional life, personal life, and there are some people out there that have this ability to bring the best of the worst out of you. This is not pleasant, but it is something that can happen, and I build a song around that. And many times I do a question from people around the world if I meant that and that in my songs that I've written. And I say yes to every question because it's up to the listener to make his own decision, you see. That's art, Beauty is in the ear of the beholder.
Exactly.
But regarding Joe, I recorded everything in Israel. I went in, I did a guide, and I decided to really treat Joe nice and send him over with a ready blasting horn section because I wanted Joe to give it all. And I thought, if I have everything ready with a horn section, I know Joe going to get fired up and do an outstanding vocal job, and he did it.
Oh, he knocked it out of the park. The track Burning Deep. Joe's got terrific vocals. I've seen him perform numerous times, and he's such a cool cat to hang with. I mean, I just love it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And then you got the powerhouse
vocals. He has been around. He met many people, and Michael Bloomfield and others. I heard, every time we meet, he has always something new coming up, always.
I don't think he gets enough credit, really, for what he does, honestly. I just don't, I don't think, people, he might not be Buddy Guy, but, Joe is Joe, and he's a power force in his own right, and every time I see him, he knocks me out, and I just don't think he doesn't get enough real credit out there, but he's had some really good albums out, and he's doing really well. So I was really happy to see that, listening to your track with him, and I did listen to Blues on Fire, your previous release with Joe. So I was kind of familiar with that, to see that he's collaborated with you. So he's good. And then you added the powerhouse vocals of Eliza Niels. Wow, she's got some range.
That's a track by Joe from '95, obviously, and I love that. I played that many times live with Joe on stage. We did that many times, and I said, you know what? I'm going to cover that song, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do a different take on guitars because obviously we all have different sounds. I have my own signature sound. He has his way to do it. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to put a horn section in to give some beef it up a bit. And then I'm going to take a female vocalist, but someone that got the pipes to do it. And Eliza Niels from New Jersey, she is outstanding. I mean, she studied opera and changed direction and went into blues, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, she's a powerhouse and a half there, and I agree with you. You know, a lot of people do cover songs, but I don't want to hear the exact of, you know, an imitation of whoever put it out. I want to see their style. I want to see what they bring to the table, and that's what makes it interesting to me. So, I mean, like I said, anybody can do cover of a great song, but as you mentioned, I think it's really important that you put your feel, your style, and add something, add a different element to it, which really brings it out sometimes. Sometimes the people doing coverage makes the cover even look so much better. I mean, that's just me, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I heard All Along the Watchtower from Hendrix, that took me places. You know, that's just how things are. You know, that's a very famous version of a Bob Dylan song, for example. There are many other examples as well, but that's my intention. When I put something, I just felt that's right. Powerful vocals, it suits the concept of the album. Blues of the Month is in, and the same thing. I prepared everything from here. I did the guide. I with the band, with the attitude of the horn section. For me, when I record and play, it's all about the attitude. When I go into the studio, I don't do 50 takes. For me, when I'm in the studio, it's about the state of mind. I normally do max 3 takes, because after that, you're only going to listen to the mistakes you did previously. It's the state of mind of you when you go in. You play with confidence. You have to close your eyes and see a musical path ahead of you, and you're going to follow it, and you're going to cut that rope holding the balloon and let the art flow in your veins, and then the note's going to find you, and then you're going to have to bring it out. That's something that you have just to trust. So if you mention a frustration woman, Louis Walker is the one to blame that I'm making a 1.5 minute guitar outro, because he told me, in America, Andy, people like electric guitar.
Oh, no doubt, yeah.
So I did that, and that is a 1 take. All that thing is not edited. It's
wow.
in the room with my musicians. I didn't touch it. We ended it. You cannot edit that kind of stuff. We just looked up and we ended it perfectly together. So we didn't touch it. It's a 1 take. Boom.
It's a great album, and like I said, I fell in love with 4. I know they're all very good. I mean, there's something that just stick out that we're definitely going to put on our rotation. Andy, how hard was it to come up with a decision to release the album, even in this COVID time where you really couldn't go out and support it live? Did you feel it was better to get it out anyway, so the fans can hear it?
Thanks for that question. It was an interesting question. I want to tell you, when I did this, everything in this album was made before the corona come upon us. So I have not written anything in the lyrics giving a hint about any kind of misery that you want to sing about in the blues. Blues can also be happy. Blues most of the time, as Willie Dixon said, my women left me. I got the blues. She came back. I got the blues again.
Oh, you're killing me.
You know what I'm saying? So when I had that, there's only one song on this album that can give you a hint of worse times to come, and that is my good friend Rick Estrin's song "Living Hand to Mouth," which unfortunately is relevant today. But the decision was really Wistone. I mean, I'm an Israeli blues guitarist, and it's a great honor for me to be signed on a major American blues label like Wistone, incorporating with Kenny Neal's label Boga. They said, "Listen, Andy, we're going to release this album on the 4th of September. People need something to listen to. They need music. And a lot of people maybe don't decide to release it. We are releasing." And I think it was the right decision, because we have been now 18 weeks on the Roots Music Report charts. We peaked at the 6th place. but we always around the 15th, 17th, 18th place for 18 weeks straight. We have reached the 9th place on the UK IBBA charts, album of the month in Sydney and Japan or all around. So obviously we must have done something right.
No, it was an excellent decision. My theme of my radio show is keeping new music alive on the radio. So I love when somebody puts out an album, and with the whole COVID thing, it's like a double-edged sword. Should I, shouldn't I? I can't do it live. Is it going to get lost? But with everybody home in lockdown, it was a perfect decision to get it out there. So now people look forward to seeing you when this thing finally goes away and you could play it live, that they're aware of it.
Wow.
Because, as an artist, when you play some of your normal tracks and then you go, hey, I want to play something off my new album, everybody goes to the bathroom or gets a drink. Now they all know, Straight Shooting Woman or Blues in a Month Club or Burning Deep. So I think it was a great decision, but I always like to ask just to see what, how hard of a decision it was for the artist. But obviously I think it's definitely.
I have second thought. I have to give you a second thought to say, but then I said, listen to me. This cannot be the only way that you can get out of this. You can't just dig yourself out of a hole. You have to change strategy. I think that the way today, when I told to my band, a lot of people here in Israel, you have to be, it's not the end of the world if you have to take a daytime job. You have to go through this. This is not forever. I think the secret is a state of mind and look at the half full glass, not the half empty. What is the half full glass? Use your time. Self-reflect. Improve something. Fender and Gibson, they didn't know what to do in April. That's all we got. We're going to fire 40% of our workforce. No, wrong. Fender and Gibson never ever sold as many guitars in the history of these fantastic guitar companies like in 2020. So there must be a lot of new guitarists brewing around the world somewhere.
Absolutely. You're like the fourth interview that I've had that has said that has really everybody so excited. I mean, who would ever think? But music, just brings out the best, and people are, especially a younger generation is generating towards that. Andy, when this whole COVID thing finally takes a back seat, can we expect to see you in the States at all? It'd be great to see you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just checking out the bearings. It's a long swim.
Oh, you're killing me. Well, get on that.
I tell you what, once you're looking at the attitude of Israel now at the moment, I think it's the right attitude. There's a lockdown, again, the third time, and the vaccination. They're putting all the efforts into vaccinate people. We got to work together. The only way that we're going to beat this, if we realize that this virus is a democratic virus. It affects everybody in the whole world. It's a global thing. We can beat it if we all work together. And the way to beat it is to vaccinate and to pull it together, because anyone who had it, he said, you know what? The virus is 10 times worse than the vaccination.
Absolutely, and you're spot on. This doesn't single out anybody. This is anybody can get it. Doesn't matter who you are. So, I'm biting my fingernails. I haven't been to a live show since last February, and it's just I can't believe what we've been through, and I cannot imagine you as an artist loving to get on stage and perform. Your thoughts when you first get back on stage in front of a live audience. What are you going to think, Andy?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, man. I'll tell you something. The question I ask many times, how am I going to feel? Oh, that's the alarm clock. How am I going to feel when you are up on the stage in a crowded venue again? Maybe because we're going to get passports here, that you have taken vaccinations. And how long will it take psychologically for people to go back to be in the comfort zone, to be in a standing room alone, or, the real, when you go down to the nitty-gritty venues when you have maybe 100, 150 people people coming in a standing room only. I think that once this is, we know that we are safe, it's going to be such a blast. It's going to be such a release of energy. It's going to be the famous blues catch-up effect. When you keep shaking that bottle and then boom, it's going to come out. That's what I think it's going to be. How far are we from that? That is anybody's guess at the moment. I really hope that I haven't had a live show since the 11th of March, but I decided early on, when I know that we're going to release the album on the 4th of September, that I'm not going to come and let this thing to change my attitude in life. It's time for self-reflection. So I have basically written and penned down a new album for the past 6 months, and I've already been in the studio, working and touching and seeing how I want the parts to be arranged and how to do it. But I must say, this album, the next one, I will release only when I feel that we are back and have caught our breath again and ready to move on after the corona.
Totally, I got you. A lot of artists go, you know what, that's a great question. I know after the first 2 songs, just to see the band, just to see the crew, just to feel the live energy, just to even get on the plane to go somewhere and to tour, it's going to bring out a lot of emotion. People take it for granted. I am a musician, I play, and then you take it away from people and you go, wow, I hope I get this opportunity again. So yeah, that first time on stage will be very emotional. I would expect. It will be a
total blast. It's going to be such a release of energy. It's going to be such a.
It's going to be crazy.
That it's like it's a hope for mankind. Some people that I've interviewed before said, you know what? Maybe this is a test for mankind to see how we will do real crisis management. To see that we are humans and can unite ourselves when the things matter the most. Maybe this could also be a sign that this was just a warm-up. Maybe we have other things around the corner that will come. And this, if we have passed this test next time, it will be easier. We will be better organized to deal with these things. I don't think this is the last pandemic or virus going to hit us, and I hope we learn something from it.
I agree with you. The album is called Supergroove. We're going to be playing a lot of tracks on it. You can check it out. Go buy it today. It's certainly available. Andy, is it on vinyl?
Blues on Fire is on vinyl. This one, not yet, but I'm planning it. However, Winston and Boga being so kind to me to set up a link on my website, which is www.andywasguitarslinger.com. There is a link that if you log in to my website, you can listen to the whole album. And of course, you have all these applications, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, if you want to download and get the album. And I also have a lot of cool videos. Each song on this album has a cool video, an edited cool video. And if anyone wants to chat with me, I'm on Facebook, and it was Guitar Slinger, and of course on YouTube.
Excellent. I love it, Andy. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I have, my friend.
Oh, yeah, I think that we have solved not all the problems, but it's a good start. And the thing that always unifies us is people going out and listen to music. And if you listen to the album Supergroove and you pay attention, yes, I'm kicking that off with Supergroove, which is an instrumental. But the rest of the songs, the 9 tracks, I was imagining driving nighttime. How would I like to have experience a pleasant ride? How would I like the songs to fall in place? Why? Because most people are listening to music when they're driving their cars. See? And that's why I ended it on the chill note by cruising out with my tribute to the great and late Peter Green with Supernatural.
I love it. Andy Watts, GuitarSlinger.com. Go there today. Go check it out. Please purchase the album. That's what it's all about. And you can check out Andy also, as he said, on Facebook and YouTube, and check out the videos. Andy, thank you so much for your time today, my friend.
Pleasure, Pat. Thank you so much for having me. And all of you stay safe and listen to the blues.
Absolutely. Andy Watts from Israel. We can't wait to get him here in the States, right here on WBXO and Pat Soundbites Podcast Unplugged.